Hello, everyone. Uh, Thanks for joining us for this introduction to Confluence webinar. For about the next hour or so, we're going to try and take as deep of a dive as we can in demo mode of Confluence. So we're going to be looking at some of the basics, and then we'll see how this tool can really be leveraged for your use of Atlassian products in the context of your environment. And so we're going to have a couple of different spaces that I'll be showing you, see what Confluence is capable of doing. My name is Tony Hartsfield. I am a business consultant for Expium. Expium is a Platinum Solutions partner with Atlassian. I'll tell you a little bit more about our company a little bit farther down the road. Today, we're looking at our agenda for our time together. We will first off just talk about what Confluence is, and then we'll take a look at some of the basic editing capabilities. And I think you'll see that it's capable of doing enough rich text editing for you that you'll find it's quite useful. But where this really becomes leveraged is when we start looking at reporting, whether that's connecting to your Jira projects or other places, but just different ways that how this can be presented to you. We'll also talk about how different teams could be using this too as their own content portal for their projects, their teams, efforts, capabilities, whatever they're doing, can be the great place for reporting on their content. We'll talk briefly about governance, which may be one of the more important topics about really any tool, that how you're going to manage how it's being used. Governance is an important topic. And then we'll finish up at the end with giving you the chance to ask your questions using the Q&A panel. If at any time you have a question, you can enter it in the Q&A section, but I will spend a few minutes toward the end reviewing those questions that you may have. Again, thanks for joining us. I'm glad that you're here. Let's first off talk about what is Confluence itself, and what are some of the pieces or the features that you might find useful to you. In as broad of a stroke description as I can place, this is a place that is a wiki style editor. It has a few other tools connected, but that allows you to document your efforts at work, your meeting notes, your project reports. Because of the flexibility of the tool and how it connects to other Atlassian tools, is that you really can build rich and important and revealing reports on your project progress for your decision makers, C-suite, stakeholders, etc. And we'll see a couple of those examples of what we mean by that. What's the structure of Confluence, if you haven't seen it before or if you're new to the product? Essentially, it's built in what are called spaces. And then when you're in a space, it contains pages. And so we'll be playing with a couple of these. I'll be demonstrating a few things from the pages of it. And so that's the basic structure. If you're familiar with Jira software, it has a similar concept of a project, and then inside of that project, it contains issues. Well, Confluence kind of takes that same structure into its options. And so, and then because of this, inside the pages, it has a lot of really flexible wiki-style editing tools that are involved in it, and I'll be showing you several of those things as we look at that. And it allows you to really create eye-catching and dynamic content for your organization to experience as you're working with there. So I'm going to take a look at some of the basic things that we can do with Confluence pages, and really just start with some of the simplest ones. You can do basic text editing. It can use headings. It can use bulleted items. Actually, let me peel back the curtain on this just a moment, just to show you what's actually happening here on the back end. And so I'm going to click the edit button to show you there's a wiki style editing toolbar allowing you to change text from headings, and then also things like normal text. You also have basic text formatting, which includes things like bold, italic, underlined, and other options, alignment, color, bulleted lists, and numbered lists. As you're seeing these things, there's also something called layouts to help you manage the content if that is of use to you, so that you can see not only the content, but manage. Maybe you want to have this idea of a text and then a smaller right panel for, in this case, it's a table, but it could be, say, for instance, a chart or an image that you can lay them out. There's a great tool in there called action items. What action items can do is as you create an action item, you can also mention someone else in your instance and give them a date by which they can reply to something. I need to update that date, apparently. So that we can, and then if I mention somebody, what happens is they actually will receive a notification that they have a task for them to handle, and then they can check off that's when they're finished. These tasks can be used in meeting notes. I'll show you an example when I show you a template a little bit later as well. So some great tools here. Table tools, so you have not only the ability to have different layouts, but you can also insert tables, and tables can have as many rows and columns as you need to for your ability to have again, managing your data tables as you need to. These can also be copied and pasted from other programs, such as a Google Sheet or Excel spreadsheet. You can copy and paste those tables into your Confluence page, and they'll treat them as Confluence tables. So that's some of the basic ones here. I'm going to be looking at some of these other tools in just a second. But one of the things I want to show you, and I've got my colleague joining me, is something called simultaneous editing. One of the neat things about a tool like this, where the content is in a shared location, is that it provides the ability for multiple editors to work on a page. And so just to show you what we mean, I'm going to ask my colleague Kylie in 3, 2, 1 to click on the edit tool, and then as we're now both editing this particular page, I see that Kylie's there. I can just start to make edits to this as well, whether it's text, formatting, whether it's adding new text, whether it's deleting. And then when we're all said and done, we both can click publish. And those then are changed. Think about this idea of maybe what you're doing is you're taking notes on a meeting, and you may want to have more than one person taking notes. We do this a lot at XPM. With our project meetings, we might have more than one person in the meeting notes page because someone's taking notes on a certain area, someone else is capturing action items, etc. And so you have that ability to have that simultaneous editing because the document is in a shared location. This also writes to the history of the page itself. If I click the actions menu, I can click on page history, and I can see the iterations of the page as it continues, and even be able to compare. So this is another way, if you want to see the evolution of a page, you could compare from the original version to another version just to see what kind of changes have been made, whether it's additions, deletions, or format changes. And so again, a really powerful tool to help you manage every time you publish a page, you have that ability to do. One other thing I want to show you, so that's simultaneous editing. Another thing that we can do in our pages, and again, this is permission based, so the space creator has the ability to manage who gets to do this, but the ability to just simply add comments. And so instead of actually physically editing the page, we could have an ongoing conversation about this document using comments. And there's two places that comments can be made. One is at the actual page itself, where you can write a comment, you can mention somebody, and I can mention Kylie. Oh, her name is user Kylie in this instance. But then I have really the same rich text editing tools that I have in here, so I can really make a very eye-appealing comment on the actual page itself. And again, if I mention Kylie, she would receive that notification so that she would know she can come back to this. Anybody who can comment can also reply. If you edit, if you created it, you have the ability to delete your own. If I refresh this page, let's see if Kylie did a response. And she did. Hey. She shared an image. We'll talk about that too. You can also do this inline. You can select text. And then when you hover over it, you're able to comment on that. And then again, you can mention somebody, but let's review. And save. Comments then have the ability to, again, be edited by the person created. You can reply. You can add additional text. You can add somebody. You can also resolve it, and it then goes into a resolved comments area so that you can actually, again, see the history of the commenting of your page itself. In cloud, and this is the cloud instance here, you have the ability to create your comments inline, whether you're in a published mode or also while you're in edit mode, you have the ability to make those comments as well. If you are in a data center or server instance, commenting is done at the published mode only, but the same types of effects here are taking place. So that is looking at comments and at simultaneous editing. I'm going to go back to another instance and talk about linking and also attachments. Linking is a really, really powerful tool for your Confluence pages. Because of linking, your information does not have to actually live in the instance itself. You don't have to have attachments here. You certainly can if you want to, but what we find with many of our clients and even within our own uses here at XVM is that much of what we want to use instead of adding to the pages with attachments is the content lives somewhere else. And we will then simply use links to those things in our pages. And I will tell you that the cloud version of this really is quite dynamic in how it presents itself with linking and the different types of ways you can link. You can link using another page in your instance. And then there's more than one way to present that. You can use this as the actual link to the page. It can also present itself as what's called a card, and it gives you some nice ways to display your information. It treats also external ones as simply any type of external one you put in there, and it also recognizes that in certain websites, if it recognizes it as media, it will do what's called an embed, which then allows you to share media content from wherever it's located onto your Confluence space, and people can watch, in this case, watch the video without having to leave the page. They can certainly go to YouTube if they want to, but they can simply watch this from the page itself, and it manages those media files. So imagine you have in your learning management system training videos, or you want to link to a meeting video that needs to be shared on your report page. Well, you could put a link to it here wherever that content lives, either in your service or even on the internet site, and it will display in your page without being considered an attachment to your page, taking up that space. And then, of course, you can also do email links as well. Let me, again, peel back the curtain to show you what that looks like on the editing side. Oh, I'm still in it. Oh, I am in editing. So here, if I click on this, you will be able to see that there's the options of displaying inline, displaying the URL or displaying the card, and that's what this is with the card itself. So, so great ways to manage links so that you can really make your pages dynamic, and also take advantage of the fact that the content already lives somewhere else. You don't need to make a copy of it into your Confluence instance if you don't want to. But of course, what if you do want to have some items in here? You can do attachments. And so, for instance, if you want to attach, if you need that image that's in there, you can have an image. You can add a caption to it. This is actually using a text mapping, word wrap in the paragraph, and so either on the left side of a paragraph or on the right side of a paragraph. This is a cloud-only feature, by the way, but it can again help you make interesting pages to do so. You can hyperlink an image if you want to, so that not only does, when they click the picture, it can actually go to either another page or an external website, etc. And the ability to add alternate text for those that are ADA, need to be ADA compliant. For those of your employees with vision issues and they're using screen readers, they can add the alternate text so that can be done. And so images are straightforward to do. You can also attach files itself, whether it is, in this case, this is a PDF, and it's using something called the PDF macro, which actually gives you the ability to see a preview of it when you're in the document too. And there's another couple of other macros that are in here that I'd like to show you, and that is, one is your attachments and your images may or may not need to be visible on the page, but they could be displayed onto your document using something called a macro. And so let me show you a couple of those macros. Let me publish this and display that page. Here's how they look in real life with the links. Here is that image, and it is hyperlinked. Here is that PDF. This is a PDF file, and allows us to view it almost as if it were a presentation file. Allows you to scroll through it. Now, this is not editable, but it is able to view it, even use it into a presentation mode when you're looking at it as well. So a couple of neat ways to look at content from there. And then this attachments macro. There may be more than one file attached to the page, but you don't need to display them necessarily using the links. Instead, you could use what's called the attachments macro. What the attachments macro does then is say, okay, these are all the documents that are attached to this particular page, and give you the chance to view them to see if there's any different versions of this. They have the ability to preview it from here. And the ability to download if they need to. You also have the option, if you want to, as a space administrator, to allow other people to add additional attachments to the page, but you'll notice here this function has been turned off. So you can actually manage then, you could allow the people in your community to consume the information, but you're not necessarily going to, optionally, you may not want to have them be able to add additional files to it. So linking and attachments are really powerful as we look at that. But let me show you some other macros. One of the things that makes Confluence dynamic are what is called macros. And again, let me show you first where they are, and then I'm going to show you some examples of those. There are several macros, and sometimes that's a scary word for people. What it just simply means is that Confluence can do some work for you, and it can do things. So things like bulleted lists, emoji, mentioning somebody, those are considered macros as well. But there's a lot of really powerful ones that are in here that can manage your page editing, can make the look and feel look good, and then there's also several that are in here that can connect to your Jira instance, Jira projects, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But let me sort of show you a couple of examples of macros that are available in your pages. There is a tremendous little macro called the panel macro. And in the panel macro, you have the ability to select what type of panel it is. So there's success, information, warning, note, error. There's even the ability to choose an emoji instead, or have no object on the no icon, and you can even change the color. So a great way to draw the eye to certain places of your page, especially with these different types of. There's also something called a status macro, which is simply a simple button where you type the text. It always converts it to all caps, but you type the text, you select the color options. We use these in our engagements as status buttons, so that we're, say, in development, in deployment, completed. We have those as we're using those. And then another great tool here is something called the expand macro, which we use this on our engagement pages for. We put the statement of work at the bottom of this of an engagement page, and allows them to expand to view what the work is. But imagine another idea with this is that you have several procedures involved. So maybe this is your QA process page, and the steps to do the QA or the different tasks to do. You could put the task name in the title, and then the actual steps how to do it inside the expand macro portion. And then once someone already knows how to do the task, they don't need to continue to see the steps and how to do it. So it's a great way to manage your vertical real estate that you have on your pages. You can greatly help reduce the amount of scrolling that someone has to do. There is a table of contents macro, which is based upon headings in your documents, and it's just simply great for helping you navigate. I obviously would put this at the top of the page, but when we have a lot of content on our pages, this is where we'll probably go and use the table of contents so we can navigate. There's also something called the page tree, where based upon the number of pages that you have in your document, you can see what pages are available to you. And even this could be pages coming from another space. And that's what this macro is doing here. It's looking at pages from another space, showing you what's available in case you want to navigate to them. I want to go into another instance to show you how this working with Jira collaboration works as well. And so this is where it begins to be, I think, a pretty interesting tool, and that is you can select text, and just like we were for commenting, one of the options so we could comment, but you can also create a Jira issue from selected text. And then you say what project you want this to go to. You choose an issue type. The text becomes the summary, and then you can add the description if needed. And this will actually create the issue in the associated Jira project that is connected with this instance. And so this instance has a Jira connection. And in fact, if I click this, it would actually show me the issue itself. And so this is where it really becomes powerful, because now you can interact between your two Atlassian products from there. You can also do this with multiples using a table. This can create multiple issue types. Again, I'll just select within the table, create an issue. It recognizes that this is in a table, and so I have the option of creating multiples at one time. Imagine you're in your weekly project meetings, and you may have a table in your meeting notes that is for other tasks that you need to use or add to your project. Or maybe this is your DevOps team, and they are discussing the bugs that they have found. They want to then immediately create the bugs in their Jira project so they know what to work on next. So very powerful, great tools that allow you to do that. There is also a great a set of tools that allow you to do, say for instance, your project report. So let me show you another space. This is a typical page that we create when we have an engagement with a new client. You could also imagine this being a project report space or page, and this dashboard contains several macros. Now, this is using the premium licensing of of Confluence, and so therefore it does have an additional tool called calendars. These calendars can be created in Confluence, or you could be subscribing to an existing calendar in your instance already. So whether it's a Google Calendar or an Exchange calendar, for instance, you could have that and connect to it. It can also connect to items in your Jira instance. And so I could actually connect to sprints that are in my Scrum project, and I could have that displayed on the calendar as well. Here is that that attachments macro. See, these are static copies basically of this page, but if people wanted to capture the report from a certain time, this is how we did that with those. This is that info panel. This is actually using layouts, and so it's a 2-column layout if you look at it. But then we also just simply went into a table, and this is where we begin to say that Confluence may be your better tool for reporting on your projects. Now, the work is going to take place in Jira. That is the single source of truth. And your project teams are probably going to stay on the Jira side, and they can actually begin to analyze data using their own filters, using their boards, using their dashboard gadgets in Jira. But this could also be a tremendous place for managing the reporting purposes for people that need to review the information, aren't necessarily working in it on a daily basis. And so again, for your management team, for your PMO, for your stakeholders, and you want to let them know how you're doing. Well, you not only have the data, and this is a great macro. It's just simply a Jira issue search, a JQL search, and it's showing you that data. So, but with this table, you have the ability to give the viewer context, and context is what really helps the people not only see the data, but understand what they're looking at. And so we have here, this is anything that we're working on, and it says, says accomplishments. So basically, this is anything that's on the Kanban board that's in a done status. And so that's what we're looking at here. And then here's what we're working on now. And so these are things that are in progress. And then these are things that are still in the backlog or in a to-do status. And so we can see what we've completed, what we're working on, what needs to happen next. But we're giving them the context of what's going on. There are also ability to add if you're using advanced roadmaps, if you're using the premium level of Jira, it comes with advanced roadmaps. And then you can link to, it's a non-editable, but it is interactive view so that again, stakeholders can see these items. If they actually want to go to the actual issues, they can click and it'll take them to that in Jira itself. But they can't make any planning with this, but they can really see what's going on. Great visual tools. Advanced Roadmaps has that nice Gantt chart looking option on the right-hand side, so they can really see not only what's taking place, but also what's coming up and the layout of where this project is going. There's even a progress fields that you can see how things are going from there. And then a combination of the Jira issue reports, the macro, can be used. This is using the exact same filter in both an issue report, but also as a chart. So for those that want to see the data, but also a visual might help them too. So this is using the exact same macro, or the exact same filter from Jira, and it's just using two different macros. The issue report macro or the chart macro to allow me to do that. And these are looking at the same issues, but whether or not in this case we use labels on this. And so if you can define these, you can show these different labels that apply to this. So again, very visual, very manageable place where you're not only seeing the data, but you are managing the message itself, giving it context to make this report much more consumable to those people that need to know this information. It's also very easy to update because of the Wiki style editing tools and some of the other macro tools available to you. So you have a lot of control to make really dynamic and interesting pages. Again, here's that idea of the statement of work that we might show when we're all in there as well. And so that is how we at XVM do it a lot with our clients with this engagement page. But let me kind of give you a couple of other ideas as to how this might be an important thing for you to look at. So here we saw a lot of stuff here, but let me show you a couple of other things too. And that is flip the concept. This is really focusing on essentially an IT team working on their IT project in Jira, but it doesn't have to be limited to IT. Who all can be using Confluence? Well, it could be that team. That team may be non-IT though, so it could be another department group. It could be the department itself. It could be so HR. It could be accounting. It could be your security team. It could be recruiting, library, whatever those groups are. They could have their own space. So let me show you one from the marketing team example. And in this one, it's got several pieces to this. First off, you could create a home page that really helps the people that are looking at your page know who you are, what your purpose is, what your mission statement is. And so we can talk about our department here. Again, this is just some wiki style editing tools. Here is a page info page with the latest updates macro. This is just text with images added, but using some links here. This is using the pictures, profile pictures, at mentioning somebody. Here is a calendar again, using the premium level where you could manage your PTO, any other group or corporate announcements. Another bunch of links here that were managed in this, and the ability to search as well. And so really, this is really that front page of could be the great introduction to who your group is to your organization. But then I can also break it down further. There is the project dashboard, which again, this is at the project level, but not necessarily IT, but it's made up of several different teams. And so I've got from alpha to gamma, and here they can let us know where they are on their projects using status buttons. And then they also then have information here on their details. So this is basically it's a project report page that they can use. So you can look at the overall project, but you can also break this down into the individual teams. They can have their own pages as well. And so using the same space, you can have multiple teams utilizing this particular page. There's a couple other tools I'd like to talk about here as well, and that is the templates that are available to you. For instance, this one is using something called meeting notes. And what you do with this is when you're creating a new page, you can either click create to create a new blank page, but there are in cloud, out of the box, there's 119 templates that you can use, and some of these are really, really useful. They're also customizable. That's the nice part, is that in our Confluence bootcamp, I'll use the meeting notes one, but then I also show how to modify that template to have only the pieces that I want, and then I reuse them. And so this is a useful tool. And then in this case, you have a summary page. And then, for instance, this is using the tasks macro. And so any tasks that are on any of these meeting notes pages show up here in this summary. And then links to any other tools that are on there. So if this is using the decision macro, it's also showing you other pages associated with this area. So it's using the child page macro as well. So nice ideas here with literally dozens of templates to choose from to work with. And then some other ideas. Here is this marketing team has spent time on a Miro or whatever your whiteboarding tool might be, and they then want to share it with the team. This is non-editable, so you could actually, your team could be working on the Miro board, but then you can display it for all the rest of your community to see that information. There's also the ability to attach a Trello board. If the Trello is another Atlassian product, it's a simple task managing board that actually several of our XPM consultants use a Trello board personally for managing their own projects and stuff. But it's a great tool, especially for non-IT teams that want to manage tasks. This is a nice little tool, but you can also have it display in your Confluence space, and this actually is an editable board. I can move these things along as I'm looking at this. And then lastly, then this particular team is using the macros to embed documents into there so that they can view them. I will tell you that out of the box as well, especially in cloud, Atlassian products, in this case Confluence, allows for you to embed a Google Docs file, and it basically then becomes editable in the page because it's like that simultaneous editing. If your community people have access to the link in wherever that link happens to be, then they can open it in an editable fashion on your Confluence page and it not be attached. It's actually the actual place. And so out of the box, it does that with Google Docs. There are plugins because Atlassian has been working with Microsoft quite a bit over the last couple of years so that Microsoft tools can integrate with Atlassian tools as well. And there are macros available to allow that to happen with, say, for instance, if you have a file that's in a SharePoint folder or OneDrive or whatever that happens to be. And then there are other plugins that you can also find if your documents or wherever your management stuff is, it can also be linked to it from wherever that happens to be stored. So again, this makes this really powerful because then the entire project team, the marketing team, may not have to leave their space in order to get the information they need to continue doing what they work on. So some great stuff to view, different ways to display this information, and we often will have the conversations with clients who are just curious. In fact, let's talk about who we are at XPM. I don't know if you signed up yourself for this webinar or if you don't know much about us. There are going to be some links shared with you in just a moment, but who are we? Well, essentially we are that's interesting. We are a platinum solution provider for Atlassian. So if you're thinking about why are we talking about Atlassian products, but the company is XPM. Atlassian creates and acquires products, and then they rely on their solution partners like us to license, to install, to migrate, to configure, all these things. We do a lot of work with our customers, and so the types of things that we can do for you includes licensing, providing your services. We'll talk about governance, managing your portfolio schemes, enterprise service management. Many of our clients now are doing a lot with their whole ITSM solutions. We're doing a lot of that kind of work as well. And so we provide those services. But another mainstream of what we do is we train. And so like this webinar that you're looking at here, every Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Time, we offer a 1-hour webinar on a variety of topics. And as I scroll through this events map, you'll see there's several of them that are on here. And then we also offer training that people can purchase tickets to attend. They can be both our public classes. They can also be client requested classes, and so we do private as well. But again, we have a series of training around. And many of them are in boot camp fashion, so they're kind of intense, but you can really learn a deep dive into whatever it is that you're working on, whether it's Jira, whether it's Confluence. One of our newest ones is the Jira Service Management Boot Camp, which is a pretty good deep dive. If you're thinking about this, or if you have it and you'd like to know how to manage it a little better, that's a great one as well. And so we can help you with that. We can do the consulting. And then we also have a sister company called Oasis Digital that is a full stack developer. And so they have made a few tools that are actually still on the Atlassian marketplace. But lots of times when we're dealing with clients, especially dealing with a migration of some sort, they might need some sort of API tool to help migrate from one solution to the Atlassian solution. And we've done several of those. And so we actually do have those if you need a custom add-on as there. Speaking of since we're in Confluence, I'll just shamelessly promote, we offer about every 6 weeks or so a Confluence boot camp. So I'm in high-speed mode right now, in demo mode, showing you all these things, but we also have a full one-day hands-on class on how to do all the things that I've been showing you in Confluence itself. If you're interested in that, it is also attached to our Jira boot camp. That's actually happening next week, and so I'm sure that if there was interest, you could take a look at that still. But again, we offer this about every 6 weeks or so as we do so. So I'm hoping that you're finding this this information is useful, and maybe you're being introduced to XPM for the first time. We love to have just the conversation with potential clients to see if what we do and what you need are a match. And we want to bring value to our potential clients. And so if you would like to have any type of conversation, or if you would like to schedule any type of demonstration for your stakeholders of tools, we can also do that as well. You can reach us at team@xpm.com. Kylie's going to post that in the links as well. If you need to reach out to us, feel free to do so. So we've looked at a lot of what Confluence can do, lots of different uses, lots of different ways that it can be presented to you, whether that is whether it is for an IT team or not, the different types of engagement platforms, the team tools that you can have in here. So it's a great way to do this, but I've already probably shown you 4 or 5 different ways that Confluence could be used. And so I think one of the last topics we need to review is governance itself. One of the things that people discover about Atlassian tools is that they're incredibly extensible, which means that if you don't have some sort of thinking about how you're going to use the tool itself, then it's easily possible to create a mess that is not useful at all. We use the phrase that if you don't have some sort of idea about your taxonomy or your governance of how you're going to use the tool, then you're simply going to amplify dysfunction. And so we really think that governance is the most important part of any Atlassian tool. It's really not the tool itself. It's a whiteboard discussion as to how you're going to use it. And so there are a few things to keep in mind when talking about governance itself. But we recommend a governance team as you're moving in, because you need to have some ideas about, one, how is Confluence going to be used in our instance? What should a space look like, or what are recommendations? What are the policies for avoiding the redundancy of information, so that you're not sending people to more than one location for information, or that you have to copy and paste and update in more than one place. That's an important part as well. You also want to manage permissions. You have people who are able to edit and create in your context of Confluence, but maybe that's not what you want your entire community to do. And so it's a matter of permissions. Who is going to get to see? Who is going to get to edit, et cetera. And that is a pretty important conversation to have. So much so that one of our webinars that we show is on governance. And I'm going to scroll down. I hope I don't make you seasick. That, again, it hits our rotation, and the next one is August the 11th. You may also find potentially a recorded public webinar on the YouTube channel. So if you can't wait until August the 11th to watch it live, it's also going to be on our YouTube channel. You could potentially find the latest one. I believe something was done not too long ago, but all of our titles are here. Many of these are our public webinars recorded, but we also have another few series of topics and ones that we do that some are just as short as 10 minutes to introduce you to a concept, etc. So again, we encourage you to come back to this page and view what's going on here. So again, governance is we think really, really important because Atlassian moves with the guidelines of, first off, you start with your people, and then you deal with your processes, and then it's what are the tools to help you complete what you want to do. And so that is an Atlassian purpose. It is definitely how we at XPN function, is that we first focus on who needs to do the work, what are the processes that they need to follow, and therefore then how are we going to use the tools available. So that is a lot of what we can do. I feel like I've been talking a lot and demoing a lot, and so maybe what I'd like to do is take the remaining time that we have together and give you the chance to ask your questions. I'm going to take a look and see if there's anything in the Q&A panel right now. I don't see anything there. Let me check also on something is in chat. Let me see that. Okay, that's where. I will certainly give you the chance to if you have questions regarding Confluence. I will, while we're kind of seeing if anybody does have any, I'll just kind of talk about some common ones that we get. Some people ask, well, can we use Confluence for external purposes? And the answer is yes, it can be set up that way. By default, out of the box, it is not. But for instance, what I'm showing you right now is a publicly accessible page that we share for our demos, etc. There are whole websites that are completely created out of using Confluence as they're built, and then they just make it public so that people can consume the information. They won't be able to edit from there. Confluence also works as your knowledge base if you're using Jira Service Management, and so that's another way to use Confluence without requiring a license to view the content, which is of great comfort to our clients that are having, they're using Jira Service Management and they have maybe 20, 30 licenses for that. They have 100 licenses for Jira software, maybe less than that for Confluence, but they have hundreds and hundreds of customers. Well, they can manage that by not having to use a license, using the open to public external access options. You also have the ability, if you want, to be able to restrict either pages or restrict even an entire space. Maybe this is a space that is your governance team, and they're going to have discussions and information that really is limited to the team, but then they may have certain pages that they will allow the rest of your organization to see, and so you can set restrictions at either the entire space level or on the individual page level. If I look here on a page, just to show you, I can set security or restrict permissions to view the page just from a single page or the entire space itself. I have been showing you the cloud version, which, and again, I'm also in the premium licensing, which includes things like calendars and analytics. But there obviously is a data center version left as well. Maybe some of you are looking at this because you are in a server instance now, and you have to think about the how you're going to migrate to cloud in the near future. Because Atlassian announced a couple of years ago that they're going to retire on-prem licenses to Jira in March of 2024. And so many organizations, many of our clients are in that, just in that situation. They're in currently an on-prem server instance, and they're looking at how they're going to migrate to the cloud instances before that deadline. And so we can actually help you with that. We can give you several ideas on that. And so again, if that's the place where you're at, we would love to have that conversation with you to see if we can help you make that decision. I think maybe that's sufficient. I don't see any questions in the Q&A. And so maybe what I can just simply do is one, thank you for joining us for this time. Two, I hope that this has been beneficial to you, that you've at least seen some of the capabilities that Confluence could do, especially the integration with other Atlassian products, specifically with Jira, but ways to manage the information with all the editing tools that are available to you. Again, you can make rich and dynamic pages that draw the attentions of your people to those places so that they find the information that they need in your organization. And in that case, we think that's really what makes Confluence an excellent tool for just those types of purposes. Again, my name is Tony Hartsfield. Thank you for joining me. And our company is xpm.com. We really appreciate you being with us at this time. Hopefully we'll see you in future webinars as well. Again, every Thursday at 11 a.m. Central Time is a new topic, and we would love to see you then. For now, I'll say thanks again, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.